Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Driekus. I'm from South Africa. I'm here in South Africa, and today we are going to look at meat preservation. However, I'm going to do it with a little bit of a twist. Alright, so let's start. This is not just meat preservation, it's more like a meal in a jar. I like this when I go out hiking. You really want something nice and filling when you go out, especially when it's raining or when it's cold. And this is a very good method of preserving your meat. You can keep it on your shelf for years to come as well. The alternative for hiking is corned beef in this case. Not a very good product. In South Africa we call it bully beef, maybe because there's a bull on the picture. I don't know. The meat in here, you don't really know what you're getting. It can be mixed and you don't know how clean it is. It's full of chemicals, preservatives and MSG, and not a hearty meal at all. Alright, so what am I going to use? I'm going to use the red meat hearts of chicken. This is a fairly inexpensive meat. In fact, it's very inexpensive compared to a red meat cut or your roast, whatever you might get out there. In South Africa, we pay 50 Rand a kilo for chicken hearts. That's half the price of chicken on the bone, free range, and less than half for any compared to any red meat cut. Why the hearts and not the gizzards? Gizzards is the stomach of the chicken. It's not as tough, so you can it really becomes nice and tender in the process of sterilizing it and preserving it. Also, there's a piece of fat around the heart, which is very important. The fat cooks out of the meat and it creates a layer on top of the food stuff, which keeps the oxygen out and it prolongs the time that you can keep it on your shelf. Alright, so that's the hearts. What else do you need? You need sterilized glass jars. In South Africa, Consol is the brand, which you get in most stores. You need to sterilize these in the oven for about 5 minutes at 100-150 degrees, and I've already done that. Then you need lids for the jar. You need new lids. Okay, you can't use these lids for a second time or more. You want a clean seal. It needs to be sterile. If you use these more than once, you can get food stuff sitting there, or even some rust will form on the lids as well. And then this is just the locking lid. This you can use again. These are sold separately and they're very inexpensive. Then you need a pot. The pot must be tall enough to cover the glass jars. These glass jars are 500 milliliter, or in American terms, I think they call them a pint jar. I like the pint jar. They're small enough to fit in your bag, and it's enough for one meal per person. The larger jars, it just becomes bulky, and that would be for a family or two people. Then you need spirit vinegar. You can use cheap spirit vinegar. You don't need apple cider vinegar or anything more expensive than this. Alright, and then a nice chopping knife. I love this knife. This is my survival knife. It's new from Victorinox. It's got a very thick blade, so it's used for bushcraft, however, and keep it nice and sharp, and it's lovely in the kitchen as well. Alright, I've got some garlic. The garlic I'll just chop in and put it in the bowl of meat, and I'll add my spice, which I'll get to now. I've got some onion, carrots and potatoes. The carrots you want to peel, and the potatoes you want to wash. They use a lot of poison in the soil when they mass produce the potatoes commercially, so you just want to wash that off. I like to chop it nice and chunky so it doesn't get lost in the mixture. I've got some containers here for the chopped vegetables. Alright, the spice, you want quite a bit of salt. The rest you can choose yourself. I've got some paprika in here, some coriander and pepper. That I'll just chuck in the meat mixture with the garlic and just mix it up a little bit so it sticks to the hearts. So the spirit vinegar, I pour this over the hearts beforehand, give it a bit of a rinse, and then drain the vinegar off. This is just to sterilize the meat. In the processing plant, you don't know how clean they are, and you just want to make sure there's nothing in there that shouldn't be in there. So it's just a sterilizing process. You also use the spirit vinegar to clean the top of the lids before you put the lids on and put it in the pot to boil. Alright, so I'm going to skip the boring part. I'm going to chop all these vegetables up, and I'll get back in a minute. Okay, so once you've done that, chopped up all the vegetables, you can start putting your meat in the jars. I like to put a little bit of meat in the bottom, then my vegetables, and then some meat on the top as well. So let me quickly do that. Alright, you can squash it down nice and tight. When you cook it, the moisture will come out of the vegetables, and it will, the volume will shrink a little bit. There we go. Okay, for the pint jar, the pint-sized jar, I put a little bit of vinegar inside the mixture, 1 tablespoonful, also part of the preservation process. There we go. Then I fill it halfway with water, preferably sterilized with boiled water, and then it'll go into the pot. When you put the jars in the pot, before you put it on the stove top, you can use just lukewarm or room temperature water. You don't want to put the container in boiling water. It could potentially crack. So I'll quickly do that. Then very importantly, before you put the lids on, you just clean it with a bit of vinegar and some kitchen cloth or towel, kitchen roll. There we go. Make sure they are nice and clean to create a clean surface for the lid to seal on. Alright. Now when you put the locking lid on, don't over tighten it. The seal happens when you boil this in the pot, and it pushes out all the air, and once it cools down, that hot air shrinks and it pulls the lid down. So you don't need to tighten this lid too much, just fingertip tight. Put it in here. Alright, so you need to make sure that when you pour your water in here, you fill it to the bottom of the rim. So right about there should be fine, and then you start boiling it. You need to boil this for about 3 hours at a low temperature. That'll tenderize the meat and make sure everything is sterile inside. And I'll quickly do that. I'll come back to you afterwards. Okay, so it's been 3 hours. These are nicely cooked, nice and tender. You would be able to see some bubbles still coming up from the bottom there. It's because they are still hot. And you will see a fat layer right at the top of the food. Now, what you need to do is you need to check the seal. You need a solid sound. If you get a solid sound, you know it's sealed. You can take off these locking caps. You can reuse them. And these are solidly sealed. You can pick them up on this and store them like this. Just remember to write a date on here and just mention what's inside for future reference. You can actually keep this for 2 to 4 years safely, up to 15 years if you keep it in a dry and dark storage area. So it's good for survival food, it's good for preppers, and yeah, it's really tasty as well. I'm going to leave this overnight so we can see the fat layer. I just want the fat to set, and I'll just finish up the video by showing you how it looks as a finished product, and then maybe heat one up and put it out in a bowl so you can see how it looks. Okay, back the next morning. Late last night I put it in the fridge. As you can see, there's a nice fat layer at the top there, and that helps to seal the food inside. Now, I actually ate one of these last night and it was amazing. It was really good. So I'm not going to open this on this video. There was a lot of moisture in it, so it's like a stew. It was amazing. So I think if you wanted to, you could supplement it with something like rice. Would be good to absorb the moisture of the stew. Right, I hope you enjoyed that. Like, share, leave your comments or subscribe. Thank you.